Temetra really represents Itron's strategy of moving to more accessible cloud-based solutions for our customers. Temetra is Itron's next generation mobile meter data collection solution. It allows customers to import data from their billing system, take that data and assign it to meter readers in the field. And then once they've gathered that data, they've sent it back to the Temetra web application. They can export that data off to billing, obviously, so that they can accurately bill their customers.
What we're looking at right now is the login view for Temetra. Like I said earlier, it's just a web page that you'll navigate to log into the system. So you go to temetra.com, and from here we'll hit the login button. And I was just in this system, so in this case it remembered my login credentials and logged me in automatically. Of course, for you logging in the first time, you'd be asked to enter in your Temetra credentials. And the first screen that we'll be taken to once we log into the system is this network overview screen. And what we're doing here is giving you an idea of essentially what's been happening with your system since the last time you logged into it. So if one of your meter readers has imported new route data into the system, that'll appear here. We'll also give you an at-a-glance overview of the number of reads that have been coming back into your system on a daily basis, as well as a breakdown of those reads. So how many of those were collected manually, how many were collected wirelessly with an Itron mobile radio, MC3 or MC4 radio, or probe reads. Again, we'll give you another view of a breakdown of the type of meters that you have in your system on a day-to-day basis. And again, this is a screen that you'll be taken to as soon as you log into Temetra. So this is our network overview screen. Now, what I'd like to do for the demo is walk you through kind of those daily tasks that you'll need to do every day or most every day when you go to use the system to import a route in, to assign that route to one of your meter readers to go out and actually read, to pull that route down onto a handheld so that your meter readers can start to do work on it, to actually collect those reads, to export those reads back to Temetra and run reports on them, and finally to export those reads out of the system for billing purposes. And so that being said, we'll go ahead and we'll move over to the readings and import screen of Temetra. So this is where you'll go to manually import routes in to the system. This can also be automated, but for the purposes of this demo, we'll just show how to do this manually. I'm going to select this upload icon, and in this case, I'm going to grab a demo route that I have on my machine in a host download file format. And we're going to import that into the system. And we'll give it just a second. And if I refresh this view, you'll see that we did successfully import this host download file into Temetra. What Temetra did is it went ahead and took a look at this file, did a quick comparison to see if there had been any changes that were made to this route since the last time it was imported into the system. And then it went ahead and scheduled it to be read. And if we go to the routes and schedules page of Temetra, we'll see that this route has indeed been scheduled to be read. So this is route 119999001. That's the route that was contained in that demo host download file. That file had a starting cycle read date of April 6, 2021. And so you can see here that that's what we set the starting date for this route to be. And by default, Temetra will set the ending date for that route to 10 days from that. So in this case, that would be April 16th of 2021. So now in order to take this route and assign it to one of our meter readers to actually go out and collect some reads for it, all we need to do is select the assign option in Temetra next to the name of this route. And from here, you can see we have a drop-down list, and you can also just filter through the list of your meter readers through that search option there. So I'll search for my own name since I'm set up as a user in this system. And I'm going to select myself in this case, and I'll hit this assign option to assign this route to myself. You can see once I do that, the colored square icon next to that route is going to change to indicate to me that this route has been assigned to one of my meter readers. And now if I switch over to the Temetra mobile application, again, as soon as I completed that login, it pinged the web application and pulled down the work that had been assigned to me. And then I just went ahead and selected the first meter in this route. Once I'd done that, I went ahead and entered in this meter reading of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this case, you can see this is going to trigger a read validation on my part because this is the same read that I entered in last time that I read this meter. And you can see Temetra Mobile is telling me that this is a no usage event on one of my active meters. Okay, so that being said, it's going to, in the case of a no usage on active, Temetra Mobile will just pop that up at you, but it will allow you to move on without doing additional validation. And that read will also be flagged in the web application, as we'll see once we synchronize this work back. So now, after completing that first read, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to head to the synchronize screen in the mobile app. And from here, I'll select the synchronize all option to synchronize that read that I just captured back to the web application. Okay, and you can see we were able to successfully complete that sync back to the web application. We did remove that completed work from my handheld device, and so now we're looking at 23 meters instead of our original 24 meters that we started with for this route that we still need to read. And so now from here, if we go ahead and switch back to our Temetra web application and refresh our page, you can see that now it's showing us that we have indeed captured one index read for this route, which leaves us with 23 meters left to be read still and 4% of this route completed. So now the next thing that we may want to do for this route is go ahead and run some reports on the reads that have been sent back for this route to make sure that the reads that we've captured are good and okay to be sent along to billing. And we'd also like to check and see if any tampers were reported by our endpoints, if these were wirelessly read meters. So to do that, all I had to do was select the name of that route from the schedules page. And you can see that we do have a few events that have come up as part of this route, as you'd expect. By default, we'll be taken to the summary report for that route. This tells us information about how many meters are contained in this route, how many reads we've collected so far for it, if any skips have been entered so far, how many unread meters we still have as part of the route, and it will also give us a breakdown of the type of meters that are contained in this route. So how many keyed reads have we received back, how many wireless or AMR reads, how many tampers, and how many high-low validation failures or deviations have come back so far as part of this route. And so in this case, you can see that we do have some results that have come back on our no usage on active report. And indeed, you can see that that first read that I captured with my mobile app for Mr. Perkins did come back with a no usage on active. And so now what we could do with this result is we could either ignore it because we're okay with this result and we're fine with sending this read along for billing. Or if we would like to send someone out to recheck this meter and validate the read that we received back, then we can go ahead and select this result from our report. And once we've selected that result, if we mouse over this icon on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that we have the option to actually create a new route out of these results. And so we can use this functionality to create an ad hoc route in order to send someone back out to actually take another look at that meter. So in this case, we'll do that. We'll create an ad hoc route based on this no usage on active meter we had come back. And we'll save that. And now if we take this new ad hoc route, and in this case, I'll just assign it back to myself, then the next time our meter reader syncs that work on their handheld, which I'll show you right now, the next time we sync on our handheld running the Temetra mobile app, you'll see that that read for Mr. Perkins has been assigned to us again. Right, so we have created an ad hoc route. We've passed that read back down to that meter reader to go and do some additional validation for. And you can see that now, again, I have 24 meters as opposed to that 23 that I did have after that initial synchronization that I did. Okay, and now if we hop back over to our Temetra web application. So what we've walked through so far is the process to import a route into Temetra. We've shown what it looks like to take that route and assign it to one of your meter readers in the field. We have gone through the process to actually load that route down onto a handheld running the Temetra mobile app. We've captured a read for that route and passed that read back to the Temetra web application. We've gone and run a report on that route and generated an ad hoc route based on the results of one of those reports. And so now let's say we're happy with this route, we're happy with the reads we've collected. The final thing that we would like to do is export those off to billing. To do that, it's just a matter of selecting the checkbox next to that original scheduled route. And we'll go ahead and select this MBRS export option in order to generate that export file, again, using the HDL file formats. And Temetra is going to drop that file directly onto my local machine. Okay, so that's a demo of the kind of basic day in the life tasks that every customer is going to need to be able to go through for the most part with Temetra. Again, that core process of being able to import your routes into the system, get those routes assigned to one of your meter readers, have them load that route onto a handheld device with the Temetra mobile app, collect reads for it, pass those reads back, and export those reads out for billing purposes. And hopefully what you've seen through the demo on that piece is that that's a very straightforward process with Temetra. And we've tried to make that as easy as possible for you. But again, as we were discussing earlier on in the presentation, Temetra can do a lot more than just help you accomplish that core use case. Again, Temetra has long-term data storage capabilities. Temetra has advanced search capabilities, which are all baked right into this solution in order to help you really get a lot more out of your system. And so what I'd like to use the remaining time for this demo is just walk through a couple of use cases for how Temetra can help you get more value. All right, so that being said, what I would like to do is move to the map search view of Temetra. And so if you have GPS coordinates for any of your meters, Temetra does allow you to store those GPS coordinates in the system, and we will actually plot your meters on our graph or on our map for you and allow you to search through and query your meter population that way. And so you can see in this case, when I went to my map search in Temetra, I have 440 meters in the system located in the Liberty Lake, Washington area where Itron's global headquarters is. And you can see that all of these meters are being plotted on a map for me. And so now with this information, I can actually start applying some search criteria to try and identify something that might be of interest to me. And so for a lot of utilities, one of the problems they have, and one thing that they're keen to keep track of, is their aging meters. So one of the things that can start to happen with many meters as they age and more usage is registered on them is they can lose accuracy when it comes to recording those reads and that consumption. And ultimately, that can result in lost revenue for you as a utility because those meters aren't tracking as accurately as they should be. And so Temetra can help you solve that problem by actually allowing you to search through your entire meter population based on meter installation dates. And so I'll go ahead and I'm going to add a filter to this map search. And I'm going to actually add a filter based on installation date. You can see that's one of the criteria we have in here in Temetra. And in this case, I'll select an arbitrarily early date and time. And for my end date for this search, I'll use a date of right around this date 20 years ago. So we'll just say April of 2020. Excuse me, 2001. Okay, so I'll add that criteria to this query, and I'll hit this search option. And you can see now that Temetra has identified for me 62 meters out of my population of 440 meters. which were installed 20 years ago. And so these are meters that I probably want to send someone back out to do a little bit more investigation on, help validate that they are actually reading correctly and accurately still. And I may want to take some action and actually swap out these meters and replace them with newer meters. And at this point, I could say, great, this is 62 meters. I have the manpower, I have the capital to send people back out and replace all these meters. And at this point, I would like to export out these search results and send them along to another part of my organization to take care of this, or maybe someone in management so they can be made aware of this. Or I could even actually create another ad hoc route based on these search results and use that ad hoc route to assign this work to someone and have them go out and do this meter replacement work. So that's certainly one option I have at this point. Another option, if I'm looking at this saying, yeah, we probably need to get around to getting these meters replaced, but I don't have the manpower right now, or I don't have the capital right now to go out and buy 62 meters, or maybe there's a really long lead time on those meters. So what I'd really like to do is prioritize this list a little bit. And I can do that based on historic usage with Temetra. And so a couple ways I could go about doing that. I could, if I had a number in my head of, what constitutes a lot of daily flow for one of my meters, then I could certainly use a search criteria in Temetra to search through all of these meters whose historic daily flow has exceeded a certain amount. So let's say that was 500 gallons on a daily basis for a meter, and maybe I want to prioritize this list that way. Another option I have, maybe a simpler option, if I'm not sure what values to use for this, is actually to add another filter to this based on connection category. And so it stands to reason that my commercial accounts, my industrial accounts, are going to have a lot more usage than my residential accounts. And so maybe that's how I want to prioritize these search results. I'm going to look through my meter population and find meters that were not only installed more than 20 years ago, but were installed more than 20 years ago and actually belong to one of my commercial accounts. And so I can go ahead and I can add that additional criteria to this search. And now if I hit the search button again, you can see that Temetra has further refined this list down to just 5 results. So as opposed to the 440 meters I started with, the 66 meters that were installed more than 20 years ago, now I've pared this down to a much more manageable list of 5 meters out of my population of meters, which belong to one of my commercial accounts and were installed more than 20 years ago. And so now I have a great list of candidates in front of me to go out and do some meter replacement work to swap out these meters in order to make sure that I am continuing to register these customers' usage accurately and bill them accurately. And now if I wanted to do some more analysis of these meters, so maybe let's say I want to double check before I go out and spend all that time replacing one of my large commercial meters, because that's not a small task to do. I want to go in and I'm going to actually take a look now at these meters, and I can look at their usage history and see what that historic consumption looks like for these meters going back in time for as long as I've been collecting reads for this meter. And this allows me to identify trends in the usage for this meter. And so if I'm seeing a gradual decrease over time in the daily flow for that meter, that could be a great indicator that this is an aging meter that is starting to record usage less accurately. And so definitely this is a candidate as a meter that I need to be sending someone out to swap out to make sure that I'm not failing to register usage and ultimately losing out on money and revenue due to meters that are not registering usage correctly. Okay, so again, just one example of how that long-term data storage capability in Temetra, in combination with those advanced search capabilities that Temetra brings to the table, can let you do a lot more than what you've been able to do in the past with MVRS or FCS. Again, to the point where Temetra really can serve as that lightweight meter data management tool and analytics platform for your utility. Okay. And the final piece that I'd like to touch on in this demo is Temetra's optional customer portal. So you heard me mention that earlier on in the presentation. Temetra does have an optional consumer portal, which you can use to give your own end users a little bit of insight into what their usage patterns look like, and ultimately help them understand their bills a little bit better to reduce the number of calls that you're receiving and having to field on your end regarding billing complaints. And so you can see in Temetra, I have this option for any of the meters in my system to show that meter in my customer portal. So view what it looks like through that interface. And in this case, what I would like to do is actually go ahead and I'll pull up one of my AMI meters, because they have a little bit more detailed usage history, since we have hourly reads that are coming back for them. Take a second to find a good one. And so here's an example of one of our AMI meters that is pulling back hourly interval data. And you can see Temetra will give you a lot more information about these meters if we have that data to present. And this goes for not just AMI meters, but actually any meter that you're pulling back hourly data logging data for. So even if you're reading your meters with a Itron mobile radio or an MC3 or MC3 Lite radio, you still actually have the ability to benefit from this if you are doing data logging with those radios. So again, we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at the customer portal for this meter in question. And you can see that in the Temetra customer portal, which my customer has access to, they can see all of that data that we've collected for their meter. And so this can be fantastic to help them take steps to reduce their own usage, maybe as part of an overall conservation effort that you're going through. And this can also just help to give them insight into why their bill was what it was the last time that you sent that out. And so maybe by looking at this and looking at what their average usage looked like over time, they might see, oh yeah, I remember on March 18th, yeah, we went out and we filled up the swimming pool. So it makes sense that my bill was what it was. I guess I don't need to call the utility after all and complain to them about my bill. And so that's a great example of how a consumer portal can have a really practical benefit for you as a utility, and also improve your own customer satisfaction because it makes them feel like they have a little bit more control over their usage, and it also gives them a little bit of insight into what those patterns look like, and again, why their bill is what it is.